I do appreciate the opportunity step in front of you and to give you the ability to understand that what we train you in today is not just to where we go, but everywhere we might be. And my cohort and I are going to try to present to you guys the facts and figures of realism. The realism is these events are going to continue to occur. I'm not sure if you had the ability to look at the news today, but in Germany, a repeat offender actually goes into a theater, just like we had here, home-based, goes in with an armed adversary, and police had to take care of it. All right, so this thing's happening pretty much on a daily basis. You live in the Orlando aftermath. Every one of you are looking at what were we doing in law enforcement. People are wondering, after dead bodies are inside a facility, why are we not going right in? I'm going to talk about that in the presentation when I show you the history of active shooter, to let you know what we have to do from this point on. Tell you why we were delayed in that mechanism in regards to maybe suicide vest, the negotiations that failed after 3 hours, and so on. So sometimes you look at that, the phenomenon exists, you're going to see who does it. Sometimes you might have insight. Guys, based on the profession you and I are both in, this event might occur a little bit earlier to our lives than someone else. Because you just never know when that threat returns. We're going to talk about time frame. How long does it stew in a person for that person to retaliate against someone? And when you think of one of the past cases about a year ago or so, a newscaster, female, on the mic, professional cameraman, Favsner, guy on the videotape on his own phone holding the gun to the back of both of them. They had no idea their surroundings and looking at that. It was 2 years prior to that he got fired and held them accountable. All right, we try to make this more interactive than us boring you with PowerPoint. So first and foremost, when we talk about an active shooter, what is an active shooter? Anyone? Come on, I can pick. I got the roll call here. A person with a gun. Is there a profile? Can we tell who's going to be an active shooter? No. All right, let's think of this. 96% of the time, it's a solo male. So when you start seeing things, and I'll show you in the history, you start seeing a female involved, it kind of throws us for a loop. We dissect and diagnose each of these. We pull out as much information as we can to learn from it, to better our outcome. While we're in front of you today, you're a civilian population. You guys and girls can protect yourselves no matter where you go. Now let's think of this. Where does this happen? We all know what happens in schools. Where else? All right, we just talked about a movie theater in Germany. All right, malls, military bases, places of worship. So when you think in that same concept, when we think of anywhere, how many of you know your facilities, whatever part of the building you work in, inside and out? Like if you had to run for your life, do you know where you're going? Yeah. Right? And if you didn't, and I'm that person sitting in your courtroom, say for instance, I'm probably following you thinking you know where you're going. And when you don't know where you're going and you lead me to that non-safe haven, I think I'm a little upset with you. All right, so it's like this. It's instincts. That's one of your options, to run. It's instinctual. When you're scared, do you think logically sometimes? No. So you think it is. All right, just like this. I'm going to scare you for a second. We're going to go to the zoo, and you're going to hold on to a rope. And as you walk into the zoo with me holding on to the rope, you hear this over the announcement. The lion's out of his cage. Who's holding on to the rope? None of you. Your instincts kick in. Where's that lion? You start to realize that, yes, I'm endangered. But you have to vent that in such extreme to use that energy to a positive note. Guys, I can't guarantee every one of us will get out of these situations intact. But I'll guarantee that some of the information me and my cohort are going to present to you is going to help you have that knowledge. A little knowledge goes a long way to understand that you can survive if you just think for that split second of what you could do possibly to assist yourself and maybe others to get through this ordeal. It's big time. So you think about it, the average time of an active shooter in your mind is how long? What is the average time of all these events? All right, go ahead, sir. See.
5 minutes.
All right. Average time is 12 minutes. 69% of them are over in 5. So when you think of something, 5 minutes, no matter how fast the sheriff division, myself, and all of us come here to situate this thing, 5 minutes is expired. Who's on their own for 5 minutes? You got to think. I don't care what kind of response. If you're in certain locales, maybe somebody's living in these locales, and this event is occurring in a theater, a church, somewhere you're at, in a township that's covered by the state police, who he or she's coming 20 miles to get to you. How long do you think that seems? 30 seconds into a gunfight that you can't fight back, it seems like an eternity. So you're looking for a response. And when that responding team gets there, their job is to stop it from occurring. Now when you think of something, We see it all too often on the news. What is their choice weapon? All right. What kind of gun? All right. The military assault rifles, the AR-15s. The ban was done in '94. Now it's been lifted, et cetera. There's been a lot of battles. You see actually our Democrats and all trying to do this, gun control law stuff. I want you to think of something. There's 200 million guns and growing. So that means there's a lot of guns out there. The average shelf life of a gun is 100 years. So if somebody takes care of it, if you invested in it, you can hand it off to somebody else, and he or she is going to get money for it because it holds its value. So some people invest in strictly for that, to have an investment. So you start thinking about that. They have a bunch of guns, not just one. The guy that went in Orlando had a rifle and 2 handguns. Killed all them people. How much ammunition did he have, and where did he get it? Where do you get ammunition? Come on, somebody say Walmart. Everybody says Walmart. I don't know, they must sell ammunition like crazy. So you think about that. Can they get it online? Yeah. I want you to go to San Bernardino for a second. The neighbor was suspicious, but they didn't say anything. Anybody have an idea why we don't talk about each other? What are we in fear of? Retaliation, profiling. Right? Sometimes that actually situation occurs in your gut feeling, your senses are telling you something's wrong. And when you say nothing to no one, guess what? How are you going to feel if it does happen? How are you going to feel afterwards if multiple people are killed or casualties occur and you could have done something about it? That's what we have to try to consider. Think about it. I want you to think about the UPS guy or girl carrying that heavy box of ammunition or something stockpiled in somebody's house, and you think it's suspicious, say something. We're in a position in law enforcement, the inspector could back me up on this. If you give us information up front, and you saw it happen in Orlando, I'm not going to deny what happens. We actually have to agree on both sides. Sometimes things are omitted. The guy was on our watch list, talked about it. He purchased a gun 2 weeks before the shooting, all right, and so on and so on. Everybody worries about some of the reports that were generated through this one gun club who asked for a bulletproof vest and all this other stuff. So maybe somebody didn't properly document it or pass it up. All right, so the report was made, and that's what we expect from you people. What we like to do is get the information up front so we can act on it. And I'm not going to act on it and turn you in and say who gave me the information. What I'm going to do is do our secret squirrel stuff, determine if the person is a legit threat to himself or others, and you all know within the law, if it comes down to us approaching that person, 1, we probably interceded and stopped it. 2, we're probably going to gather all the weapons that he acquired and all the ammunition to take him out of harm's way as well. So we can do that, and we do that. The newest threat in our schools, kid with a gun. All right, there's no more bomb threats to get school emptied out and all sorts. All kids at the schools with guns. So you see how this has taken over society, everything about violence and involved firearms. I want you to think of something I specialize in. The threat that we deal with in our country, the land of the free that you thought was at one time or another is changing. There's no more planes in the buildings, people. It's ongoing small arms attacks with either guns or small edged weapons. This ISIS and ISIL, this is their threat. Just like Paris, it's going to occur here. If you're that naive and thinking it's not coming to the United States, I think you're a little naive. I think you got to realize that we have to prepare ourselves, you included. Doesn't mean just law enforcement. Why we prepare ourselves and prepare you is because when this event occurs, we train heavily. We're asking you to just take a little bit of knowledge and meet us in the middle. So these outcomes are not as devastating as they might once were. Some of the things that we can prepare for. All right, so we know it actually happens. Here's the thing, when this threat comes into our building, this threat wants to spread. Can we limit their spread? We are fortunate in this big high-rise because we all work under the same premonition. We're dancing the same sheet of music. Think of another taller building downtown. Different tenants on different floors. So if this threat spreads to another floor, they can't even talk to one another. Let's talk about talking for a second. If we had a PA system that goes throughout CJC here, and there's an announcement to be made, what announcement would you want to hear? Do you want to hear a code? The meeting for this afternoon has been canceled. Well, I'm a defendant, I'm a volunteer, I'm a contractor, I'm a visitor. I don't know what that means, but yet I'm watching all yous run for your life. Plain language. Anybody have a problem with plain language? Unless the person, which we call 96% of the time is a male, he's shooting his gun and has no ear protection on, he's hearing ringing. You can't hear no more. Do you really think he cares whatever you say on that PA system? So let's think of this. Your first option is to run. Do you know where you're going? How far are you going? Can I do a roll call? Can I find out if you're still here with us, alive, with no holes in you? So sometimes we don't inadvertently leave early. Who knows your whereabouts? Or if you jet and go back to New Jersey, you might have critical information for me, the Sheriff's Division, who's responding. So you think about that. Your first option is to run. Now, if you can't run, which I look around the room, I don't think some of us can anymore. So you think about that. What do you do then? You hide. Now you go in your hiding spots. Let's go back to the announcements. And I'm the active shooter. How can I possibly get you out of your hiding spots that some people think is important to do when an emergency occurs? What do people have a tendency to do to alert the authorities? Not so much cell phone. What's on the walls? I'm the active shooter and I pulled a fire alarm. What have you been trained ever since we were yay big? Take it out. What is my intent by the active shooter pulling a fire alarm on you? Get you to come out. So when we talk about hiding, believe me, some of you are so scared, you can hide, probably in shoe boxes and stuff like that. Think about this. Think about where you would go as you walk around any facility. Think about where you would go. Based on where I'm at right now, and this goes down, say what if. Say what if I'm sitting in the food court in a mall, and I look to my right and my left, I know I'm going out. Why do I got no two ways out? Shooter's in one, you better figure out another way out. So as we're running, you better realize if I run into a dead end, as some people did in Orlando, to the bathroom, are we expecting the shooter to follow us to a bathroom? Guys, some of the safe havens and some of our high-rise down here are the bathrooms on the floor. Fit a lot of people, they're protected, etc. The problem is if you get in that area, and sometimes you're limited by design, you ran somewhere and you have nowhere to go. Let's talk about TSA Airport, or LAX Airport, the TSA agent. Everybody ran into the bathrooms in an airport. Guys, is there even a door on the bathrooms in an airport? So if I turn the corner and you're in there, probably a bad day. So sometimes we have to think about that. All right, try to limit this threat and this spreading. How can we do it? Can we take unit forward roles? Can somebody be a leader? Can somebody be a follower? And things of that sort. Let's think of this. I'll give you another for instance. I'm your flight attendant. Talking about making yourself mindful. You get on a plane, they show you what? How to buckle your seatbelts, where the oxygen comes from, and they point to the exits. Why did they point to the exits? When are you going to use them exits? Under an emergency. So you know how to get out of here. Guys, you're 40,000 feet in the air and they're telling you how to do that. What is different when we're walking around? Thinking the threat that exists, the new world we're in, and so on. So some things we've got to prepare for. All right, let's think of this mentality. Realize intended victims. You know and I know if they show up with guns and they're not me or the inspector, guess what? Bad day. We deal with a lot of custody things. I know probably maybe some family court in here and all. So you just never know when somebody's going to surface. Maybe it's something you discipline them in your courtroom. You don't think they're going to forget about that? This is some of the things that we've got to prepare ourselves for, so they will search us out. So if you want to live in a vault, you can try. The kid from Sandy Hook shot through a locked door. So if you think we're going to turn the parameters of all our buildings and say, I'm going to keep you safe no matter what, just think the intent's there, that person's going to continue coming in. All right, the intended targets, 90% of them, guys and girls alike, are suicidal. That's all I want you to think about. Even if you post me, the inspector, and all his guys and girls standing in front of them, guys, their intent is to get in a gun battle and die today. So it doesn't matter what stance we provide, add in all this extra security. If that person's intent is to die that day, they don't care what they take on. That's what they're looking for. Maybe somebody do it for them. Now let's think of this. We know they happen, right? I see a lot of shaking heads right now. Can we predict them? That's what I mean. You're shaking the wrong way. Shake this way. Let's talk about predictability. Your senses are tingling. You realize something's about to occur. How about this one? Inspector, do me a favor. You and I have been working together for years. Don't go into work tomorrow, man. It's important to me. I don't want anything to happen to you. Listen, don't go in. Is that unusual? How about the kid from Oregon who wound up having 6 guns on him? The day before, he's throwing out everything he owns in a trash dumpster. And his mom's standing right there and looks right at him. Joe, what are you doing? Mom, I don't need these after tomorrow. That's everything you own. I don't need them. Probably called a clue. Our kids pick up on it in social media. So they will bring it to our attention as adults to alert the authorities and within the school or something that they're talking about, what do you see what I do tomorrow? So sometimes we have to act on that, and we do in law enforcement. We have to act on that. So sometimes we can't predict them. I'll talk about that when I talk about Virginia Tech. We can predict it. All right, we'll talk about this, predictability. 90% are suicidal. We'll talk about events over in 10 minutes. Let's think of 5 minutes. We're going to talk about our traditional response does not work. Where it changed, why we had to change it, what we do from this point on. Look at the percentages, people. Everybody sees the schools, the smaller of two percentages. A lot more happens in the workplace. All right, when the inspector comes up, you're going to see all types of courtroom things that occur. Some of you will remember some of it. It's fresh in your minds. Why we reiterate the training is to kind of give you back up to speed to say it's going to occur. It's just a matter of when and where. You look at the second one. These are the social bullied kids. These are the ones that weren't brought up right. They follow the leader of someone else. The kids that get along with others in playgrounds. You take the next bullet. Mental illness. I do this all too often. I was in actually a place yesterday up in Warwick Township talking about they deal with these kind of people. And I asked them, I says, is mental illness a disabling, and they talk to a certain degree, but that's what society thinks. You are mentally ill and you can't prepare yourself for nothing. Everybody's got to take care of you. Well, I want you to watch these guys who are somewhat mentally ill at times doing some of these events that practice tactics, learn how to shoot a firearm, buy gear. I don't think they're disabled. A second thought that we deal with is we accept it in society. Hey, he don't mean it. He's under a doctor's care. He's not going to hurt no one. There's going to be past history. I'm going to show you the history of it to where you see some of these touches of these anxiety disorders, this bipolar condition. That leads people down that path. And what we can do even on their end. They're trying to prepare themselves on how they notify law enforcement. Very few on our radar. You look at the bottom catalyst in regards to it, how often we get triggered. As human adults in the life we stress to actually have and enjoy and all the work we provide and so on, it's one of them things with life itself. You look at some of the signs and symptoms on this slide. If you have 4, maybe 5 of them, the boss needs to see you right away out in the hallway. All right, I'm just kidding. Guys, sometimes we come across clues. And here's the funny thing about this, all kidding aside. If you had suspicions about someone, say for instance, within the room, and you tell management, and management does nothing with it, how do you feel? I wasted my time. Why wouldn't management do anything with it? What are they in fear of? The guy doing him right then and there. So sometimes they don't approach because they're afraid they're going to get targeted themselves. But sometimes we have to take the decisions. If there's multiple employees talking about it, I'll talk about the craft food store where we had a female do this. I'll tell you about how crazy it was when something was presented to their management and they didn't do nothing with it. Let's go to history. Charles Whitman, bipolar condition. His father trained him actually how to be a kid, throws him in a pool, he almost drowns. He watches his father abuse his mother, he gets married, abuses his wife. Prior to shooting, he takes a large kitchen knife and kills both of them. He takes actually a long bag full of 4 rifles, a handgun, and a whole bunch of ammunition. His intent is to kill everyone, like every other active shooter. Until his gun's jammed, he runs out of ammunition, or the law enforcement guys get onto him. He starts shooting everybody an hour and a half into it. An hour and a half, probably why SWAT was created. 20 minutes into this ordeal, you have normal civilians. Some of you, which I know you do, carry firearms. How proficient are you? If you purchased one, when was the last time you shot it? How good did you get? Did you get better? Did you shoot at a human? Shot at a piece of paper, you heard it go bang. You ain't been there since. Now all of a sudden you're going to be that hero sitting amongst 100 and some of us in a room, and you're going to take actions because there's people getting shot up. Now you pull it out and you got to pull that trigger on a human. All right, it's probably not something any of you in the room signed up for. You think about it, it's not an easy thing. I want you to think of how devastating it is. Even in Upper Pennsylvania right now, they're arming our teachers with guns. There's a lot of responsibility that goes along with a gun. Here's the thing, let's think of this. Me and the boss are working in tandem. He's sitting possum in the audience. Yous all started to approach me to take my firearm. He now says, I'm going to protect my partner. Now he jumps up. That's one circumstance. Let's go to another one. You come up and attempt to get my gun. All right? You try to overwhelm me. I was going to shoot you all first, but now I think you're all threats, so now I'm going to kill you. All right? Let's take it to another degree. You have your own gun. You take care of business. You get me down, whether you shot me or not, you're over top me. I want you to think of something. How hyped up are the officers, no matter where they come from, sheriffs included, are coming in here to put this to rest? You think they're not fired up? Now I want you to think of something. We're not trigger happy. The problem is the circumstances. You're over top this individual, and they're going to be yelling all types of orders to you, put that gun down. And I want you to realize, are you even going to hear them? Your life just flashed in front of you. Maybe you shot the individual or took his gun and disarmed them, and you're standing over top, and here's the first thing you're going to do. Officer, what do you think is going to happen then? The officer's coming through that door to engage you because of a gun. It's tough, guys. It's a tough business. I'm not a gun advocate. I don't care who carries guns. I just want to tell you that it's a responsibility. If you purchase one and have one, if our friends are laying dead, if you have to take action, worry about the actions you take. It could be a worse outcome. Not that I want you to be held hostage or sit there and maybe take your chances. The situation occurs, it's circumstantial. Right? So you think about this. Let's go 33 years later. What did we learn in Columbine? And somebody's got to have them. What do you think of me and the boss if we're standing as we are right now, and the school's right behind us, where the Mosaic Temple is, and there's a whole bunch of people in there, kids, and we're not doing anything? We learned from this. This is the paradigm shift, to realize that we in law enforcement can't wait outside on the lawn because I don't hear any more gunshots. We have active stabbers. The kid from California got thrown out of a study group. He sliced up all his people. Buildings are built to absorb sound. You might be on a separate floor and this is going on. So you start to think about this. How many in the room, by show of hands, know what real gunshots sound like? How many want to learn right now? I'm just kidding. Relax, all right? I want you to think of something. If you hear what it believes to be, no matter where it might be, and we talked about all these events occur everywhere, it's the real situation. It's not the 4th of July inside a mall. It's time to take precautions because it's going to be important and valuable seconds. Just because you hear no gunshots doesn't mean I'm not in danger. Could I be stabbing you? Could I be raping you, torturing you, fortifying my location, booby trapping it? This is where we know we can't sit outside anymore. Everybody debates with this in regards to Orlando occurs. Orlando, we knew that there was carnage inside. But now all of a sudden he's talking to the news, he's talking to 911. He's trying to make deals. We're thinking, okay, all of a sudden we mentioned suicide vests, 2 or 3 of them in there. So sometimes you start thinking about first responders, additional victims who were hiding, not yet shot up, that could become casualties if we breach their property. All right, so these are some of the circumstances unfolding and still unfolding to learn a little more about the dynamics. Doesn't happen here, does it? All right, you guys are my court staff. Some of this stuff crossed some of your desks. Some of you might recall a lot of this. This guy goes down to Naval Yards, settles his dispute, kills 2. Look at the weapons he chose. Gets in a firefight with police, takes his own life within 12 minutes. Let me teach you how to profile for a second. Better yet, let me teach you how to size up an individual. If you can see the screens from the distance you're at and you look dead in the middle of this man's eyes, that man's telling you a story. Might be an easy read. But if you're a Virginia Tech professor and you point to some of your students and say, listen, why don't you come to class anymore? And they point to him and say, because of him, we're afraid of him. They're afraid of one of their own. You're talking college kids. Is that a predictability? Do we know? His kid had anxiety disorder. His family's tried everything. Medical told people this is a ticking time bomb. He's going to hurt someone. They know it, but nobody could do nothing about it. Sometimes in our society we accept things, we move on, and we just let it go. I want you to realize in 9 minutes he shot 174 rounds through 2 handguns. He did a dry run 6 days before and locked these doors shut. The day of the incident, he locked them shut. Why did Cho lock the doors shut? With a chain. How many of you walk around your facilities or anywhere you might go and look at hey, that's not safe. You see a door locked shut, now you can't get out it. He locked them shut so nobody can get out. He locked them shut so nobody can get in. The biggest thing we learned from Virginia Tech is called communication. We do lockdown drills. We train people to hide, to shelter in place. This university, when he shot a couple people in the beginning, never notified anyone. Never shut it down, allowed continued class to continue. He went back to his dorm for 2 hours until he went to his carnage and shot up more people. And the university told no one. I know it works. In fact, I do a lot of negotiations in the city. I was on Temple's grounds. My daughter just graduated there. A year ago or so, we're dealing with a guy who's shooting at us, me included, for 14 hours. I want to see if she and all the rest of the student population were being updated by the police department to let them know there's police activity in the area, stay away from it. And she was, on the hour, every hour. Guys, we think about how can I notify my 100 and some in this room when there's actually an event going on in the CJC and you're not here yet. You're in transit. All right, and so on and so on. So you start thinking about that. Is there ways out there? We all know when we get canceled when it actually snows. All right, so you think about this. Is there ways of texting you? Is there ways of one calling you? Is there a system in place that we could try to fire it out and see? All right, this way there's notification made. That's what we learned from Virginia Tech, how to notify student bodies. Say, for instance, to lay, listen, shut it down, man, there's something going on. Here's your Kraft Foods. Here's what I was telling you about. You're in management, and this employee comes up to you and says, listen, They're spraying me with deer urine. I'm sorry, what did you say? They're spraying me with deer urine. Far-fetched, is it not? Think of this. What is management supposed to do with that one? Long story short, she eventually gets fired, goes to a break room where there's 4. She tells the 4th girl, you have no issues. Boom, she goes. She kills 2 or 3, it becomes a barricaded situation. She's eventually alive, sitting behind the door. I talk her to open the door. She has her gun on her and a pocket full of ammunition. And she lives through it, guys. It's not unusual, and it's a female. Somebody's spiraling out of control. This is Gabby Giffords in actually Arizona. This male for 3 years was thinking bad thoughts. Did somebody come across him? Could somebody have said something to someone in our field that maybe somebody could have intervened? Let's go to this man. All right, last class, I'm not sure if I have anything here judges-wise. The judge asked him, tell me why he did it. He said, Your Honor, I'm a super villain. Everyone I kill is a power unit to me. That's unfair to say. You killed a child. He says, I chose the midnight show to be less kids there. I was going to do it anyway. Talk about a cold-blooded killer. This guy goes out at 12:30 after the opening of Batman at midnight, walks out to his car, puts a load-bearing vest on, has ballistic leggings, dressed like me, grabs a gas mask, throws a gas into the crowd, and starts shooting you while you're sitting in your movie seats. First of all, when you're sitting in a crowd and you see smoke coming in for the opening of Batman, what do you think it is? Part of the show, special effects. He kills you. Guys, this guy was so prepared, he had a first aid kit in case we shot him. He actually had road spikes in case we chased him. Out in his car, he had bombs. So he prepared himself for this event. Sentenced as he was, etc. Now you go to this one. Half the size of some of the screens you're looking at. Father and brother deserted him 2 years ago. Couldn't deal with his issues. Mother can't get in his own room to look at what he had posted, which is similar, half the size of the screen, of 500 killings, who was killed, what weapons were used. He had trash bags over his windows. He was in that dark space, but mom would never impede and go in there. Well, he killed his mother just like Charles Whitman killed his. They follow each other. They study from one another. They see, look at this score. This is considered a score in a kid's mind as a video game. There's another kid in society who's going to outdo his score. Sandy Hook was devastating. It involved our children. Guys off the beaten path, terrorists want to involve our children. That's their main goal. They made 3 prescriptions about it, one of them recently, to say they have the right and declaration to kill 2 million American children. Big issue. They know how to get to us. You think about this, no shots, we talked about it. Today, tomorrow, every day from this point on, be aware of your surroundings. I can't rehearse this in your mind, you have to. Prepare yourselves for the worst day of anyone's life. Prepare your family members, realizing that you're not with them 24/7. This is some of the things that we can do individually. A little knowledge goes a long way. Today you're getting training. You got to remember something. 2 things happen when you get trained. You either recall what you learned, or you still believe that not in my town, USA. And you start to get scared. And you hide under the desk and you make a lot of noise. And duct tape works really good. Did I say that? Think about it. We have to remain silent. All right, you know that part of my law. I read that out to you. Remain silent, everything can be used against you. Think about this. When this happens, and people are watching this unfold on the news, who do you think is going to reach out to you? Your loved ones. And if your phone's not on silent and you're running for your life but hiding behind the door, and they ask you, hey Joe, you okay? Yeah, it wasn't until you called me, and my phone just went off. All right, same thing with radios. You practice that, you turn that stuff down. They will call, they will try to get a hold of you. We're going to talk about who to call. And don't say Ghostbusters, that drives me and the inspector crazy. We'll talk about that. All right? So you think about it. Sometimes you're still going to fall in that. Now they might slow you down. So you think about it. You have the run option, you have the hide option. We're going to talk about a fight option. Everybody worries about it. You guys are the courtrooms. Everybody worries about if they had to take care of business, what are they going to face? Well, let's think of this. There's a lot of dead bodies involved. You and I both know the law inside and out. People have the right to defend themselves. Is that our last option? Is our fight option the last option? Or do you want to do your Krav Maga on them right away? Let's think of this. I'm in a senior citizen center that I can't run anyone. I'm a doctor or a nurse. I'm a teacher. Do I have the run option? I'm probably going to hide out. And if I can't move bodies as they're disabled, I might have to leave right to the fight option. There's another option out there a 6-year-old used in Sandy Hook. Does anybody know what it is? Play dead. This 6-year-old hid under 15 deceased bodies to stay to safety. He gets distracted in the second classroom. She runs to safety. So you got to remember something. Sometimes actually you intermingle with that crowd and you're laying amongst them bodies. It ain't like the military where I got to shoot you before you follow me to another camp. You just never know. This is some of the things that you have to prepare yourselves for. What would I do under these circumstances? Just give you a little tidbit of some information. Just wanted to show you that. Ain't that really cool? Yeah, super. All right, think about this. We know how to respond to emergencies no matter where you go. There's fire alarms, drills, all that stuff. This is really not much to add to it, a little bit. Don't recreate the wheel and say, hey, listen, let's add this. When this happens, I know to shut them blinds down. I know to turn them lights off. I know to turn my phone off, right, or turn it down, et cetera, et cetera. How many's in the room that have first aid? Show hands, first aid. Very few. Big crowd, very few. Guys, you know how important first aid is? Think about this. Let's put yourself in the Broad Street run, turn it into the Boston bombing. You could render a little aid and make people get home at night by putting a little pressure bandage on, a little finger in a hole. It betters you. That positive talk to tell that person you have help on the way, you're here with them. Sometimes we got it many years ago. The newest thing we're doing from Washington on out is called Stop the Bleed. Basically addressing wounds, especially gunshot wounds, with tourniquets. You saw a couple cases in our city, 2 fortunate officers, right, applying tourniquets, or at least thinking about it. Jesse, who got shot up in a police car, whose arm was dangling, was walking back, if you watch the video play out, to get his tourniquet that was on his, and he was apologetic to me because we train all of them. Like, yo, you're alive, I'm happy. The other guy, officer, gets shot in the leg, they take care of him, his partner drives the thing. So they're going to be found in a lot of AED stations. There's a prescription when everybody thinks since the Vietnam days that we lose limbs because we applied tourniquets. Well, improperly applied, maybe. Studies have shown you can apply one fully engaged for up to 10 hours, you're losing nothing. So you'll see it all, and every officer you see in the city of Philadelphia, all right, you're going to see tourniquets all actually on their hips because of the training. So you think of some of this. Responsibility. Somebody was making announcements, usually the sheriffs. God forbid the lobby's all shot up. Right? It takes out all them. We're all in for a bad day. Because there's quite a few of them down there. So you think about that responsibility. We have others that do it. If you're in a facility that don't have the ability to make the announcement, what do? We just call it a day. Trained to types of emergencies, and now we're going to get into who to call. Who are you going to call? Say Ghostbusters. All right, you can get out of your system. Think about it. 911. Sometimes it's nice we call the sheriffs. In turn, they're going to call as well. Now we're in communication with radio, so they go right on our air. So we're cutting the time frame of our response, realizing that we've got to work together. So you think of this. When you call 911, maybe the guy's walking by you. The dispatchers, which I train, are not supposed to say, "Are you there? Hello?" Because your voice is now broadcasting across the room. We want you to leave the phone open so we can maybe hear some background noise. At the same time, it's intelligence. Our city's thinking about going to 911 and texting. Townships already have it. The first response they're going to give you for that response for 911 when you text 911 is, if you can call us, please do. Because we all know how long it takes to get a response on texting. So we're losing valuable, precious seconds. But think about that. If you're hiding under a desk instead of making a phone call, you may be able to text. Our city has the capabilities. They're in the midst of moving our headquarters at some time or another. Software is important. It's a whole big entourage in trying to get it done. So it is a current. So we want you to call 911. We're going to talk about that when I show you a quick video. All right, shelter in place or evacuate. Let's think of this. How many of you really want to get out? If the shooter's in the lobby, you're 12 floors up. Do you got to run by him? But if he's 12 floors up and you're in the lobby, you got to stick around. It's based on the circumstances. Without having the ability to tell you what's going on in the threat, you got to judge it. Is it worth me running across that courtyard when he's elevated thinking he's going to pick me off like that sniper did? Some of the things you got to pay attention to, some of these alerts that we put out, etc. All right, I won't bore you with some of this. We talked about alternative methods of communication, real big. Let's get into some of your options. You're going to run. I have to count for you. Were you here today? You will be interviewed. You will be detained. You will be searched. Even if you didn't come in, we're going to find out why you didn't come in. Were you given that authority? Somebody say, hey, listen, don't come in today, because we knew it was about to happen. In the Naval Yards in Washington, I think we did 2,700 interviews. 2,700 people who had access to that base had to be interviewed. Location of shooters or shooters. Description, is that important? How about if you describe them as me, and under gunpoint, give me your clothing. And I changed clothes with this person, but yet you ran back to New Jersey because you're scared. You think that's important stuff to get to us in law enforcement? When that team comes through the door, who are they going to engage? What am I going to do? Oh, he's in there with a gun. And I'm going to run out with the rest of you. So sometimes that's important in regard to the description. I want you to think of something. 100 of us in the room. We're going to describe that person the same way? Some of you would be scared hiding on the table. You'd be looking, you say, you know, gave a brief description. Location and potential victims. Think of San Bernardino, which was over in 4 minutes. Sandy Hook was over in 5 minutes and 3 seconds. Think of how many people were in that holiday party. Could you be caught up in one of them big events? Would it be important to notify us as first responders of how many we need, how much resources we need to assist the mass casualties that are laying in there? So you can imagine what we're all involved with. The weaponry, what am I looking for there? A slight description, right? It looks like a Mossberg 12-pump single action. No, he's got a real big gun. All right, just describe it, et cetera, and anything you think you can give us. You think of all this. Let's go to the doors for a second. One, you're not going to stand behind them. Two, which way do they swing? Do they swing into an office or a hallway or a closet, or do they swing out into the hallway? And you start to look at what's my preference. Well, the one that swings into my office, what can I do? All right, little wooden block that we used to say, hey, I tripped over it 7 times, I'm getting rid of it. If I wedge that, lock the door, push some furniture in front of it, we're slowing it down for what? Law enforcement's coming. We need extra minutes, so you might be able to slow it down a little bit. So sometimes you look at that, the door swings. The windows, when they say stay away from windows, is it because you're 12 floors up and I got a great shot? No, it's because the illumination coming in that particular room you're in is highlighting your image. So sometimes you want to stay away from that. So can I put the blinds down in a hurried manner? Can I turn off the lights? Sometimes in these new buildings you have these motion sensors. How many know how to disengage them? If you didn't, think about it. Every time I make motion, the light goes back on. Now I'm walking by, all of a sudden I see the light in there, it draws my attention to you. And so on and so on. Why don't we huddle together? Fish in a barrel, man, easy kill zone. Look, I could do it gangster style. All right, you think about it. You have nowhere to go. It's tough when it comes to the kids because when they're scared, what do? They huddle together. Try to prepare these teachers the best they can. Try to put them in different spots. Maybe get near to the door. When this person comes in, rush him or her, push him against the wall that your kid scored at. If I save one kid, I did my job. Difficult scenario, we as adults can't huddle together. 93 over Kane, can you? You look at this small room we're in, think of what we can improvise as weapons. You start to realize I have to go home tonight. And the funny thing is that me and the boss do this all over the place. And we do it in front of some really crazy crowds. We do it in front of some religious crowds. And we start talking to priests, nuns, clergy. It says, sister, if this person's going to kill you because they don't have no intent, they don't care who they kill, what could you do about it? I'll never forget, I think I had a nun yay big, and she says to me, if I hit him in the head, where do I hit him? Anywhere you can. All right? When you think about that, things that they've always condoned, you have to put them in that position because they're non-prejudiced, guys. They're going to kill everyone. All right? And this is how we have to get this through our heads, that we're caught up in this. You know, maybe not wait for that last decision and say, I better take a chance. Maybe group together and figure out what we need to do. All right, meetup location's important. Good location is right down where all the sheriffs are. Sometimes I actually did 5th and Chestnut, so you think of down the Independence Hall. You got all the actually park rangers that have guns. So I tell people, look around your surroundings. If you're running for your life, where's a good area to go that the bad guy, first of all, is not going to chase you, and 2, you're reaching out for help. And don't say to Dunkin' Donuts, we take offense to that stuff, right? You're not going to get the Dunkin' Donuts. But think about it, all right? Things that you got to consider. Don't grab on us, and just do me a favor when you're, don't point. You start pointing, as hyped up as we are, that looks like kind of a firearm to us. All right, some of the things that we want to try to avoid in the long run. Here's how fortunate you are. As this man and I stand in front of you, he's about to present himself. Think of this. This is the response we are fortunate in our city to have. The ongoing cut down of response time to assist on whoever's trained. It's not for Philadelphia police officers who are coming, it's all of us. Anyone that's on the same sheet of music on our end are coming. The first 4 guys and girls that get there are going to do their thing. In some locales, they don't have that luxury. They're lucky if they respond with that one officer who he or she now has to take on 2 big guys with 2 big guns with a whole bunch of ammunition. So sometimes you see the circumstances we're dealing with. So we're fortunate on that end. Our first teams to contact them, we're fortunate here in the city, it's worldwide now. Our paramedics, our fire department, give them a kudos. They weren't on board at first. We prepared and trained them. It's not going to be Columbine anymore. We're not going to drag victims on lawns. They are going to go right in, if it's warm, could turn hot again, to repair people. Their professions to do that. We bought them all this gear. They will go in right with us. As soon as they arrive, we're taking them in. All right, this is how it's going to work. All types of online stuff. I'm about to show you a video. It's 4 minutes long. There's hundreds of videos that are 4 minutes long. You go on YouTube and type in active shooter. Guys, no matter what me and the boss tell you today, if you do this yourselves or have your loved ones at home do it, and they don't want to go on this other site I'm about to show you, guess what? You're going to gain something from watching that 4-minute video that's going to better you if this ever occurs around you and people like you. All right, that's some of the things that we prepare you for. There's all types of stuff out there. If anybody wants to generate themselves and get real authoritative, IS 907. FEMA, or Federal Management, or Emergency Management, allows us to go on a site and take a test. Oh, wow, wait a minute, I'm way past school. You take a test, they give you a certificate. If I was management, I'd ask you to do it. You bought into the program, you took a test, you get a certificate. They say it takes 45 minutes. Here's my punch. You kill angry birds, you tweet everyone. Some of you are still playing Candy Crush, all right? You're on actually Facebook for 3 days straight. I'm sitting next to you in a party and you're not even talking to me. This is going to save your life. This is going to save people who you're not around 24/7. Your adult-like kids can save their lives. Get them to do it. It's free of charge. Gives you a little bit of knowledge. All right. Let me get you this video. This video is actually called Options for Consideration. Pardon me, ma'am. I'll sneak right through you.
We have an active shooter. Stand by for further information.
Tragedies such as the 2007 mass shooting on the campus of Virginia Tech, the 2009 shooting at the Fort Hood, Texas military post, and the 2011 attempted assassination of Representative Gabrielle Giffords at a public appearance in Arizona are all examples of active shooter situations. An active shooter is an individual actively engaged in killing or attempting to kill people inside an occupied structure or outside in a populated area. In most cases, there is no pattern or method to their selection of victims. Active shooter situations are unpredictable and evolve quickly. It is important to be prepared for such an event. Make it a practice to identify potential escape routes and have a plan in mind, even if you are just visiting a facility. In the event of a shooting at your location, you must quickly determine the most reasonable way to protect your own life. You will need to determine if the best course of action is to evacuate or to hide. Call 911 when it is safe to do so. If there is an accessible escape route, attempt to evacuate. Be sure to leave your belongings behind. Help others escape if possible, but do not attempt to move wounded people. Evacuate regardless of whether others agree to follow. Warn individuals not to enter an area where the active shooter may be, and follow the instructions of any police officers. If evacuation is not the best option, find a place to hide where the shooter is less likely to find you. And be sure your hiding place does not trap or restrict you or your options for movement. Consider the difference between cover and concealment. Cover will protect you from gunfire, and concealment will hide you from the view of the shooter. Quickly choose the best option. If you are caught out in the open and cannot conceal yourself or take cover, you might consider trying to overpower the shooter with whatever means are available. To protect your hiding place, lock the door if you can. Block the door with heavy furniture and close, cover, and move away from windows. Hide behind large items such as cabinets or desks. Remain quiet. Silence your cell phone and/or pager. Even the vibration setting can give away a hiding position. When you call 911, remember to tell the operator the location of the active shooter. If there are multiple shooters, physical description of and number of weapons held by the shooter, as well as the number of potential victims at the location. When law enforcement arrives on the scene, their primary goal is to eliminate the threat and stop the shooter as soon as possible. First responders will not be able to stop to help injured persons until the environment is safe. Knowing what to expect will help keep you calm and allow law enforcement to quickly neutralize the threat. Officers may arrive in teams with tactical equipment such as vests, helmets, and rifles. They will need to take command of the situation. Expect to experience officers shouting orders and even pushing people to the ground for their safety. It is possible that officers from multiple jurisdictions will arrive on the scene. When law enforcement officials arrive, it is important that you keep your hands visible at all times. Avoid making any sudden movements. Avoid pointing, screaming, and/or yelling. Put down any items. Immediately raise your hands and spread your fingers. Remain calm and follow instructions. Do not stop to ask officers for help when evacuating. Just proceed in the direction from which officers are entering the location. For more awareness resources, please visit dhs.gov/critical infrastructure.
Now, my partner gave you a lot of technical information. Who's the novel readers in here? Raise your hand. That was good for you, right? Read draw it out. A lot of us, we like to see it, right? We retain it a lot quicker by seeing it. So I'm not going to go over everything my partner did. What I'm going to do is be like the summation of your jury trials. Just the facts. Life has changed forever. It will never be like it was. I used to hear the old heads say to me, you don't know. Back in the day, it's over. We're in a whole new world and a whole new time. What my partner didn't tell you is, we know this is going to continue to happen. And we know that those that don't start preparing themselves will be the victims. I guarantee you that club didn't think it would happen there. I was in Rome shortly after the Paris incident. I promise you they didn't think it would happen there either. Not me, not here. This is Philadelphia, the seat of democracy. This is where it all started. What really makes you think you're not a target? The world has changed. If you give me a few seconds, I'm going to boot this up for you. Yes. That's it. That looks good to me. And if you'd hit it, and I have a little right there for me. Very good. Now let's see if everything works. That's a real picture. You know, some people live up in suburbs, something happened, they say, oh my God, I don't believe it could ever happen here. You're in the suburbs. Of course it could happen where you are. But what I'm going to go over very briefly is, what can we do to help prevent ourselves from being a victim? See, in most of these incidents, they were planned. It wasn't random. It was planned. As my partner told you, they practiced it. I worked the prisons for 9 years, and I can tell you, bad guys get training in prison. Yes, they do. And when they graduate, all of you are the graduation certificate. So since we're specifically talking about this active shooter or this active threat, because as my partner said, it ain't got to be a firearm anymore. Stab you up. How about an improvised explosive device? It can be anything. So it's very, very, very important for you to be very clear on what this is. My partner alluded to it, but I want you to remember this. It's a situation when one or more, my partner told you it's normally one. It's hard to get a lone wolf because we can't figure it out. One or more. They're actively killing. That means they will not stop unless they take their own lives or law enforcement stop them. We're not talking hostage. We're not talking barricade. We're talking about lives being taken. We call this a very dynamic situation. It's happening. Not in CJC, huh? Okay. This is very important to me and my partner. The difference between a soft target and a hard target. Now, believe it or not, we're trying to make your courthouses a hard target, which means we have various levels of security, and you're essential to that security. Maybe you've noticed there are bike patrols on the outside. Patrolling, that's called the physical deterrent. Canines, physical deterrent. We're going to put cameras out there, physical deterrent. Barriers so they can't drop car bombs through the front window, physical deterrence. And then we have those magnetometers. How many of you are tired of walking through the magnetometers? Raise your hand. Yeah, you know you all tired of the magnetometers. You've been working here for 20 years and they keep asking you for your ID and don't you know me? I get the complaints. But that system is for your protection. See, you may look at it as, they know me. But we're concentrating as a deterrent of those that are trying to get in the building. So when you give my deputies a hard time, you know me, I was here yesterday. I don't know, maybe you were fired. Maybe you're like that Nabisco employee. We want you to cooperate with our security system. That means wearing that FJD issued property with your ID. It's part of the security system. And then once you get in the building, if you're lucky on a crowded day, we have internal systems, different courtrooms for different types of trial, armed deputies, police officers roaming this building. These systems are in place to be preventive. But my partner made it very clear. I will sacrifice my life to get to you. It doesn't matter whatever those systems are. So now that you know we're all trained alike, you know we're coming with the guns, you know we're coming as quickly as we can, we will not get there to save everybody. That's the truth. It's not called active shooter because we saved everybody. So we're going to go over some things that every one of you in this room can do in these courthouses. And guess what? Some of these may work for you at home or while you're in the mall or while you're on vacation. But I'm here because I'm concerned about you coming to a place of business to work where you're not afraid, where this system of justice, as they call it, has the opportunity to work. That if someone targets us, they go to Chester because it's too hard. You see, when you talk about Oklahoma, Timothy McVeigh didn't target the Murrah building first. Timothy McVeigh followed the FBI public information officer from another incident to Oklahoma. He wanted to blow the FBI up. But they were such a hardened target that he wound up taking an alternative. I spoke to one of the FBI people at a workshop that I was at, and you know, they caught him. They flew him back to Oklahoma. That's how the FBI is. And the agent looked at McVeigh, and they're a little cocky. Sometimes the FBI can get a little cocky. And they said, see, it's still standing. And he said, without any emotions whatsoever, McVeigh turned to him and said, if I'd had more money, it would. These people that are doing these acts have a mission. So today, your mission is to survive, yes? This is what happens when there is no training. This happened in a courthouse. And as you can see, the magnetometer is not in place. This individual walks in, and something in the back of your neck should be getting a little creepy right now. He's got a long coat on. He's looking. He's on the hunt. He's got what we call assault weapon in his hand. And if you saw that strap on his leg, that's a thigh holster, which lets me know that he has more than one weapon. Now, this young lady knows something happening, but look how long it takes for her to react. She goes in to talk to a coworker. Fortunately, this weapon malfunctioned. It took him off his point. But at some point, he gets it to work, at least once. Then he lets loose. Think he's looking for somebody in particular? He follows her. That sounds a little personal to me. Again, because she didn't have training, she runs to a colleague's office, and I want you to see where she hides. right in front of the glass. Very fortunate, he keeps having problem with the weapon, therefore it takes him off of his game. They were very lucky. He leaves, and again, because the employees here haven't been trained on how to lock in place, they decide they're going to come out. The police are responding with weapons drawn. This could have been a cluster, you think? But the one guy was smart. See him fall on the ground and behind, he played dead. Till his boys told him it was okay. See, I have a saying. Failing to train is training to fail. Failure to train is training to fail. Because if we don't have a plan, if we don't rehearse that plan, if we don't revise that plan as needed, then anything can happen. My partner already talked about Mr. Whitman, but I want you to see that these active threats have been going on for many, many years. My partner talked about the Philly base. How about that Amish school? That shocked everyone, huh? Peaceful, law-abiding, stated themselves. No one, and I mean no one, is exempt from any of these type of activities. This is prior to the most recent events. How many courthouses do you see in those examples? You represent justice, but not everybody gets what they believe is justice. You are a target. My partner talked about mental. All I want you to pick out of this is they may have certain problems, but there's no problem in killing you. They're very focused in that. This happened in a Texas courtroom.
Drama unfolding here is nothing compared to the terror that's about to be unleashed outside. And it's all captured on video.
Yes, sir.
We were listening to one of the witnesses, and all of a sudden we heard some bangs from out on the street.
Rapid-fire gunshots, fear and confusion in the courtroom. And TV cameraman Chris Howell suddenly realizes he's in the middle of an even bigger story.
It took me about 10 seconds before I figured out, holy smokes, this is a gun battle. Roll tape now.
To prevent the accused from escaping in the chaos, a bailiff grabs him and takes cover. Hysteria sets in as automatic rifle fire strafes the building from the street below.
It's just like a cannon. It's like pow, pow, pow. It rang throughout the entire square.
Outside, on the courthouse steps, Maribel Estrada and her 23-year-old son, David Arroyo Jr., tried desperately to reach the safety of the building. Maribel is here hoping to resolve issues from an ugly divorce that's left her ex-husband, David Arroyo, enraged. Just inside the entrance, a courthouse security camera records what happens next. That's Arroyo, approaching on the right. Suddenly, he opens fire with an AK-47 assault rifle. Maribel and her son fall just outside the doors, cut down by bullets. Arroyo continues to shoot at anyone he sees, as several officers attempt to stop him, armed only with handguns. One by one, they come courageously forward. And one by one, David Arroyo mows them down. Upstairs, cameraman Chris Howell ventures from the courtroom into a corridor to videotape the shooting.
I saw two bystanders come running up the stairwell from the first floor, and the look on their face was extremely distressed. I took maybe another step, and I heard more gunfire, bang, 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 bang. And that's the point where, I reached my own personal fear level.
Fearing for his life, Howell ducks back into the courtroom. On the street, Arroyo reloads and the gun battle continues. The outgunned cops desperately radio headquarters for backup. Sergeant Rusty Jacks, an expert marksman, grabs his rifle and races 7 blocks to the courthouse.
When I got out of my truck, there were people laying on the ground everywhere. There was just a lot of fear and panic everywhere on the square. It was just obviously mass chaos.
With hundreds of innocent lives at risk, Jack knows exactly what he has to do.
My goal was to get into a position where I could see him and engage him with my rifle.
He jumps up on the hood of a passing patrol car, knowing he might only get 1 shot.
I didn't want to be inside of a vehicle whenever we did find him, thinking that we would ride around the corner and basically be pretty much on top of him at that point.
But he's too late. Arroyo has reached his red pickup truck, and he's making a desperate escape. Jack scrambles into the patrol car and joins the pursuit. First through the streets of Tyler, then onto the highway, reaching dangerously high speeds.
I knew most of those units were single-man units, and most of them probably didn't have a rifle or a shotgun in their car.
But Jack's does. A Colt Command AR-15 rifle, designed for sharpshooting.
I knew that I had the equipment to deal with the situation if I could ever get into a position where I could see and get a clear shot at David Arroyo.
Suddenly, a patrol car driven by Deputy Sheriff John Smith speeds past and closes in on Arroyo's truck. Arroyo opens fire on Smith, who returns fire before rear-ending him. Arroyo jumps out, enraged. And Sergeant Jack sees the opening he's been waiting for. David Arroyo's reign of terror is over, ended by a fatal shot to the back of the head.
He wasn't part of a gang. He was there for a domestic issue. Domestic. We have a perfect storm in Philadelphia now. You have juvenile matters and domestic matters all in the same building. Every year, twice a year, the Philadelphia Sheriff's Office collects the weapons that were confiscated from people trying to get in the building. We destroy over 10,000 items of weapons a year. 10,000. You know the guy that brings his girlfriend to a custody case? Kind of inflames the issue. The juveniles that are determined delinquent and put in placement. Add to that, now the sheriff's office is conducting 5 sheriff sales a month, selling people's property for failure to pay mortgage or taxes. Emotional issues. Those are what we're dealing with. My partner told you about this. Numbers mean nothing when you're in the fight. Numbers means absolutely nothing when you're in the fight. Now, what we have to do as law enforcement, we're doing. We're training together, Philly PD, United States Marshal Service. It happens. We're notified. We're coming. Promise. We're going to put our lives on the line every time. But you have to take responsibility to preserve your life until we get there. So we have to plan and we have to train. Step 1, understand that anything that happens in these buildings is your business. Let me say that again. Anything that happens in these buildings is your business. Shirley had a fight with her boyfriend last night. She came in with a black eye. She's talking and said he's going to kill me. That's your business. Johnny used to be the nicest guy in the place, but now he's going to a salty divorce, and when he mentions women, it's in a negative context. That's your business. Those are the clues that my partner's talking about. Now, you may say, I don't want to get involved in that. But those are essential clues that the police and the sheriffs need to know. If it's nothing, that's cool. But those initial responses can help us prevent this. Secondly, each and every one of your divisions, and we're working with you, have to draw up a plan. Are your doors lockable from the inside? As my partner said, how do you notify each other? Have you consistently put that plan together about run, hide, fight? Or are you waiting for us to do it for you? How many of you participate in fire drill plans here? Raise your hand. Go ahead, raise your hand. How many of you leave when they tell you they're going to do the fire drill at 2 o'clock? Yeah. So we really can't get a grips of what actual time it takes to get people out of this building. The more you avoid the training, the higher the probability it's going to fail. Failure to train is training to fail. Once you have that plan in place, are you practicing it? I'm not talking days. Are you at least walking through it? How many in a fire drill go out this door and just stand outside? Yeah, a lot of you, unless you're going to Macy's. Yeah, I know. I see you over there. Are the supervisors grabbing your timesheets so she can tell who is and who is not in? Because my deputies and the police, we're scouring this building thinking you're in here. You're placing us in jeopardy. Or is it, I don't want nobody tracking me? No, you're all employees. You're supposed to sign in and out. That helps us do the job quicker. All of these things are your responsibility until we get there. Some of you are responsible for jurors. What do you do with your jurors? I know some of your judges carrying a Roscoe on the bench. You know what I'm talking about. But those judges have been trained by the sheriff's office. Those judges have been told what they can do and what they can't do. Because when my guys come in the courtroom, I'm not looking for a robe. I'm looking for an armed guy. Most of you know you take your judge, lock them in the chambers, right? But do you practice that? Do you have a plan? Are you waiting? Well, the sheriffs will come take care of it. If you're trained, you're going to recall that training, and you're going to have some preparedness to act. If you don't train, you're going to do one of those fatal three: fear, fight, or freeze. Promise you that. If this happens, it's going to be over very quickly. You are going to have to take action. So when the sheriff's office and the police department start evaluating your area and it's something you're not used to, don't fight it. You know? Right? I love bread. I love pasta. My. But my blood pressure went up. I'm diabetic, and the doctor said, sir, you can't eat a whole loaf of bread no more. And I said, what? I had to make some changes. And what's going on today, you're going to have to make some changes if you're going to survive. Workplace violence, we're finding, is a very important part of this domestic thing going on. Love connection. Then it's no longer a love connection, and that presents a problem, right? You know what I'm talking about. I see y'all smiling. It was love now, you're working with each other, then they found another love, and you're still working with each other. That presents a problem. Are you paying attention to those signs? It's your business. We need to know about it.
Can't take half of my money. I'm the one who worked for it. You're a lawyer. Do something about it. She's getting the house too? What are you, blind? Hey! This is my parking space.
Come on, Mark. I got here before you did.
Mark, there are plenty of other parking spaces back there.
Mind your own business. This is between me and her.
Look, you saw me use a turn signal.
It's ridiculous to get upset over a parking space. Jeez. Are you okay?
Yeah.
Hey.
Hey.
Hey, Leah.
Good morning.
Good morning. Well, good luck at that presentation today.
Have a good day.
So what is eating Mark? He used to be one of the nicer guys around here.
I know. He's been really difficult to work with lately. The other day in a meeting, I heard he left in a huff, and last week at lunch, okay, I saw it. He totally flipped out because the waitress got his order wrong.
Well, I heard he was going through a really messy divorce.
Oh, that's no reason to threaten your coworker, you know?
Mm-hmm.
We should go to HR.
I really don't want to do that. I don't want to spend my whole morning at HR. Hi.
Hello.
Hey.
I heard about what happened in the parking garage. Are you okay?
Yeah. Yeah, it's just not a great way to start your morning.
No kidding.
How did you hear?
Office gossip. But don't worry, I will take care of it, okay?
Thank you.
No problem.
Gotcha.
All right, see ya.
See ya.
Bye.
Have a good day.
You too.
Thanks.
You wanted to see me?
Yeah, please, have a seat.
I'll stand.
Would you mind closing the door, please? Mark, I heard about the incident today in the parking garage. I have to tell you, there have been some consistent complaints about your aggressive behavior, and that type of behavior is not acceptable here. Do you understand? I also need to speak with you about your performance lately. Your work quality's been very poor, and we've decided that we need to place you on a probationary period of 1 month. We'll be evaluating you weekly, and at the end of that period, if we don't see some significant improvement, then there will be some serious consequences. Mark, you could lose your job over this.
Fine.
Do you want to discuss this further? I'm happy to answer any questions you have.
No. Are we done here?
Yes, we're done.
This is it. I can't take this anymore.
Ladies and gentlemen, if we've taken nothing from what we've heard here today between my partner and I, is that you're a very intricate part in prevention and preparedness for these type of events. You know, she didn't want to go to HR. She didn't want to be inconvenienced. I can tell you what's going to happen next. It is imperative that you understand that every security procedure we have here is for a reason, that we need your cooperation. It's very important that you're our eyes and ears. Remember Town Watch? Be our eyes and our ears. Well, you're the Town Watch in these courthouses. You have thousands of people come through these doors every day. Victims, defendants, general public. There's a lot of personalities and issues. We need you to be part of the solution. And the only way you're going to be able to do that is help us.
It may feel like just another day at the office. But occasionally, life feels more like an action movie than reality. The authorities are working hard to protect you and to protect our public spaces. But sometimes bad people do bad things. Their motivations are different. The warning signs may vary, but the devastating effects are the same. And unfortunately, you need to be prepared for the worst. If you were ever to find yourself in the middle of an active shooter event, your survival may depend on whether or not you have a plan. The plan doesn't have to be complicated. There are 3 things you could do that make a difference: run, hide, fight. First and foremost, if you can get out, do. Always try and escape or evacuate, even when others insist on staying. Encourage others to leave with you, but don't let them slow you down with indecision. Remember what's important: you, not your stuff. Leave your belongings behind and try to find a way to get out safely. Trying to get yourself out of harm's way needs to be your #1 priority. Once you are out of the line of fire, try to prevent others from walking into the danger zone and call 911. If you can't get out safely, you need to find a place to hide. Act quickly and quietly. Try to secure your hiding place the best you can. Turn out lights, and if possible, remember to lock doors. Silence your ringer and vibration mode on your cell phone. And if you can't find a safe room or closet, try to conceal yourself behind large objects that may protect you. Do your best to remain quiet and calm. As a last resort, if your life is at risk, whether you are alone or working together as a group, fight. Act with aggression. Improvise weapons. Disarm him. And commit to taking the shooter down, no matter what. Try to be aware of your environment. Always have an exit plan. Know that in an incident like this, victims are generally chosen randomly. The event is unpredictable and may evolve quickly. The first responders on the scene are not there to evacuate or tend to the injured. They are well trained and are there to stop the shooter. Your actions can make a difference for your safety and survival. Be aware and be prepared. And if you find yourself facing an active shooter, there are 3 key things you need to remember to survive. Run, hide, fight.
If I could get my partner, come on up. So, I know you saw the one girl, you said, oh, she's such a wuss. I don't believe she's like that. Let me tell you something. I don't even know how I'm going to react to a situation of a critical nature. But I can tell you, if you take the information my partner and I have given you today, if you work together, if you go back starting tomorrow and do your assessments, look at your doors. Do they lock? What would I do if this threat is presented to me? Talk to your colleagues. Am I wearing my ID every day so that that deputy knows I work here? Or am I being part of the problem? If we work together in these solutions, we can prevent 90% of these incidents happening in our house. I always tell a story that my grandmother told me. Remember the story of the tortoise and the hare? Young, spry hare, slow tortoise, they were in a race. And when the race began, the hare took such a lead that he went to sleep. Fast young buck, right? But the tortoise, moving very carefully and methodically past that hare and won the race. If we work methodically, use the information and resources that are presented to us, we can win this race. I want to thank you for your time. God bless and be safe.